Hi, I'm Naomi May. I'm a fashion editor and we are here with the SATCoL podcast, The Sustainable Conversation. I am so excited to be joined by Annie Phillips, the winner of the Great British Sewing Bee, and Laura Puddy, fashion editor and stylist. Guys, welcome to The Sustainable Conversation.
Hello.
Annie, I would love you to talk to me about how you got into sewing and repairing your clothes.
Yeah, of course. So I was very lucky. My grandma, Monica, she taught me to sew when I was quite young. So she's Ghanaian. And I was saying before, it's very much a part of her culture. She knitted, she loved to knit. She'd make like Aran jumpers and all of that kind of stuff for everyone. But sewing, mending, just sort of repurposing what we already had, that was very much normal for us as a family. And she knew that I liked it, and I was probably the only cousin that actually enjoyed sewing. So she was like, you're going to learn. And that was kind of our thing, and it always has been. So it was really nice, like for me, to have that one-on-one time with her. But also for her, I guess, to hand something down and like have something that I'll always remember her by, I guess. So yes, we used to make things together, mend things together. And then from there, very much into fashion, loved vintage, would always be kind of like altering and mending and changing things all throughout my teens. And then, yeah, that was basically how I learned to sew.
And we were talking earlier, Laura, weren't we, about how it's almost a generational thing with the way that our parents and our grandparents would approach repairing our clothes and mending things and fixing that which you already had rather than just discarding it and going to get something new.
Oh yeah, I mean, my dad has every gadget you could, even think of stored in his garage. So if there's something that needs fixing, he will fix it. And I think that actually came from his parents. So my grandparents on the paternal side, they were very much of that generation where you make do and mend. My grandma taught me to knit, not that I'm particularly good, and I don't think I could do it now. But yeah, they sort of came from that perspective, and then that's obviously been passed down to my dad. So now, for example, he will never let me throw anything away. He always wants to fix it or try and fix it first. And if it can't be fixed, it will be recycled.
I know. I was saying my dad's exactly the same. Yeah. And he told me off actually because I called him a hoarder in my book. But he is, because he finds something for everything. Everything has like an eventual purpose, and he's like, we're going to use it.
Yeah. Even if you end up forgetting that it's in the back of your cupboard and you end up having to get a new one anyway. And there's also clothing donation too. And Annie, I know that you've donated via SATCoL's in-post locker service too, which is free. How was that?
It was so easy. And it's really funny. I love donating. I love rehoming old clothes. And it's something that I do all the time, is go through my wardrobe and reevaluate what I need and don't need. And I like to give things to someone that needs them. But it's a constant thing that my partner always laughs at me about, having a bag in the boot at all times of things that I'm going to donate. So for me, this was perfect because it was just so easy and quick and free. So it's like, it's not like you have to wait for the charity shop to be open and go in, blah, blah. You can just put it in the locker. The locker's actually at the end of our road, and it was just so easy. So yeah, it was a really good experience.
And you're not alone there. I also at all times have some form of donation in my car boot. It's the nature of the beast.
That's what boots are made for.
Yes.
That's what car manufacturers put them in there for.
All my charity donations are, constantly in and out my boot. Yeah.
And Laura, I know that one criticism that's often levied at the secondhand fashion world is that it's not size inclusive enough. What's your take on that?
I would definitely agree that it's not the most size inclusive. And that's partly because, if you're looking at vintage fashion, for example, back in the day, women were smaller generally than they are today. So you're often going to find, let's say, a size 14 won't necessarily be equivalent to what a size 14 is on the high street today. And speaking of the high street, there's no standardisation in sizing anyway. So I think you've got to throw caution to the wind, forget what the size label says and just go with what fits you. I mean, one of my favourite things is men's blazers. So, the men's section is always a very good place to rifle through. Yes.
I'm known for going through men's shirts at Upcycle, I'm not going to lie.
And that's it. I think
not good.
You've just got to get a bit creative though, haven't you? You've got to get a bit creative, especially when you're shopping with it's vintage or in charity shops. You've got to just, if you like something and it doesn't necessarily fit you, think about, what could you do with it? I mean, you're probably going to be the person to talk about that.
I think as well, like it's not being so linear in how you shop. I think like I often shop in the men's section anyway, but especially when you're talking about secondhand, it is what fits you and what you gravitate towards. It's not necessarily, it's not like shopping in a normal shop, because everything's one of a kind, everything's one off. So you have to kind of change how you're thinking about shopping.
Yeah, and don't be a slave to the size label at all.
No,
yeah,
you absolutely cannot. What would be, both of you, what would be some tips that you would give to somebody who was maybe going secondhand shopping and wasn't really quite sure where to start?
Shall I go first? One of the things I would say is go with an open mind, but in the same breath, have an idea of what you're looking for. So, for example, if you're going for an occasion wear look and you want that, I don't know, that blazer, or you want that bag, have an idea of what you're looking for so you can kind of hone your search a little bit. Otherwise it can feel very overwhelming. Don't take too much notice of what the size label is. I've already said this, but I do think it's very important. And look out for quality fabrics, because this is a great thing when you're in the charity shops having a rummage through the rails. Have a look for natural fabrics like linen, cotton, wool, because I think this is the great thing when you're doing secondhand shopping. You can often get better quality items for a fraction of the cost that you'd spend elsewhere.
Totally.
I would say the same. So learn your fabrics. So I would always try and go for natural fibres, because they're going to feel better on your skin. You're going to wear them for longer. You're going to keep them for longer. And often, because they're more expensive fabrics, they're made much better, basically. And kind of get to know little things about, like, just making sure that they're nicely made, because then you know you've got a really good quality piece. And then the last thing for me, which I know is a bit crazy, I'm so known for going around with a tape measure, but get to know your sizes. Just your waist size, your hip size, and then you're not taking bundles of things in. And often in charity shops as well, you can't necessarily try things on. So you can quickly work out what's going to fit you and what's not going to fit you. They would be my top tips.
That's a fantastic idea. I'd never even thought about that. What a good idea. Next time I'm taking my tape measure with me. And as our sewing supremo at the Sustainable Conversation today, Annie, what would be some of your tips for somebody looking to upcycle bits in their wardrobes? Where could they start?
So I would say, first of all, just make sure that you have got there's some really easy tools on how to keep things sort of better for longer. So a debobbler, I'm sure that you're aware of.
Staple. It's a staple.
It's a staple. If you like knitwear, you've got lots of knitwear, or you like buying secondhand knitwear, it literally takes away all of the like little piles that you'll see on the like surface, basically, and make it look brand new. And it's honestly such a game changer, even for like jerseys, t-shirts, that kind of thing. It just like changes the game. I would say, if you're starting off fresh, learn how to hand sew. So little things like learning to put a button on, you can sort of patch up holes, maybe even do some sort of darning if you get to like working with a hand sewn needle. And it's much more accessible. It's literally, a needle is like 10p, a bit of thread, maybe £1, and you can really mend and keep your clothes in circulation for a much longer time. So I'd say if you're starting off, that's what I would do. I also really encourage people to go to little workshops. They're not expensive. I host one once a month, and that for me is so joyful, because it's people that think that they may not be able to do it, but they're just giving it a try. And at the end, if they walk away with a scrunchie or a little, a bit of a plique or whatever, they're so impressed with themselves, and you kind of get into the mindset of like, I can actually do that, and it's actually not that hard. Because I think sitting at home doing it is, sometimes it makes you feel like you can't do it. Whereas if you've got some people around you, it's a bit of more community based. It's really joyful. It's really fun.
And also the devil's in the details with fashion and with style, isn't it? So actually adding those little touches, like we were saying, even if it's wearing the same thing several times because you know it makes you feel amazing, but you add new earrings or whatever you might do, it's those details that often make a difference.
Absolutely, 100%. And I think accessorising is something that's so underrated because it can just completely change your look.
And Laura, what's one conscious thing that you do as part of your routine that more people could try and incorporate into their own?
I mean, I do look after my clothes, so that's kind of to your point. For example, this blazer, I bought this probably about 4 or 5 years ago. I wear it again and again, but I look after it. Someone actually commented recently saying, oh, it looks brand new, but it's because I keep it in a clothing cover, I hang it properly. So consciously, I look after my clothes. I go for more quality fabrics. It's probably an age thing as well. As I've gotten older, I have been much more aware of my consumption. So therefore, I will buy less, but buy better quality. So sometimes that does mean a slightly more expensive purchase, but generally it's about the fabrics that I buy. And I'm also very conscious of, ensuring that there are things like BCI cotton involved in any cotton products I buy. And also I'm very interested in knowing the life cycle of a garment. So there's lots of businesses out there and fashion brands now doing what's called a digital product passport. So this basically holds these brands to account about the life cycle of where that product has been made, where it's been dyed, how much water has been used in the production of that piece. So it keeps you accountable, so you're aware of the sustainability journey, but it also is just an awareness that you can bring into your everyday life. Because I think a sustainable product can be a bit of a minefield for people. But yeah, so I think my top things would be, more conscious purchasing when I do purchase, looking after my garments, and I am better at mending things now. I actually do take it to my dry cleaners for them to mend because I'm not the best at sewing.
No, but that's the best thing to do.
Yeah, so if you don't have the skills yourself, find someone who does.
Yeah, absolutely.
The key is repair.
Indeed.
What about you, Annie? What's one thing you do?
Just to keep it really simple, firstly, I would say to shop your own wardrobe. That's the most sustainable thing you can do. Relook at your wardrobe. As I said before, I'd say maybe like 4 times a year, I'll get my whole wardrobe out, relook at what I have and remember what I have. Sometimes you completely forget you've got things, or you've got these white t-shirts or whatever it is, and you're going to buy a new one. So really shopping your own wardrobe and mending your own wardrobe, that for me. And also not being scared of like outfit repeating. I think we were talking about this previously, but like there's nothing more sustainable than wearing the things that you already own. Don't be afraid of outfit repeating. If you know it works, it works. Like, it doesn't matter. You don't have to have a new thing all the time. And I saw something really scary. It was basically for young people under 18. There was a study showing that if they wore something more than twice, they saw it as old. And that's obviously a mindset that they've been like indoctrinated into because everything's new and they're so used to consumption. I grew up in the 90s, and for me that wasn't so much a part of my mindset when I was shopping. We might go on a Saturday shop, but I saved up for the thing that I bought, and I was like thinking about that thing that I wanted to buy for such a long time before I got to buy it. So I think definitely trying to change your mindset to not be so not to overconsume so much.
And I know that you've also been big on clothes donations as well, haven't you? Yeah. We've got our bags in the boot, and that's nice because there's also, I think often you kind of think about the environmental aspect of it, and that's a huge part of it, but also there's that social element that's really important too, and the fact that actually the work that the Salvation Army is doing, for example, supports vulnerable people in the UK, which is really special. Okay. Final question for both of you. What is sustainability, as you just said, Laura, can be really overwhelming. What's one simple sustainable thing that people could start doing today?
I would say donate things that you no longer wear. It's something I've always done, and I've also consumed from charity shops, but I've always donated my whole life. All of my family do it, and it's something that I would always, because you're giving back, and donating doesn't necessarily mean just to a charity shop. It could be to women's refuges, for example. When I worked in magazines, that's something that we did every season. With any excess product that was left in our fashion cupboard, it would go to women's refuges. So I think donating is kind of paying it forward.
What about you, Annie?
I would say to just try and keep one piece of clothing in circulation for longer. So something that you may think that you no longer want to wear and you don't want anymore. Just try and either do an upcycle, maybe dye it, maybe make it a little bit different, put some accessories on it, I don't know, but just keep it in your wardrobe for longer. And that naturally will significantly reduce the environmental impact of that item.
I love that. And I'm still obsessed with the tape measure hack. I'm going to take that with me next time I go to a charity
Everyone's been
shop.
walking around with tape measures now.
Thank you both so much for joining
Thank
us
you.
on the Sustainable Conversation today.
So much.